The girl attends her classmate's birthday party, but the boy behind her secretly pours an unknown liquid into her cup. Unaware of this, she continues to enjoy the party. 3 boys then coax her into drinking the entire cup in one go. As soon as she finishes, she feels dizzy and lightheaded, thinking she might be drunk. She decides she wants to go home, but the 3 boys surround her with nasty smiles, refusing to let her leave until the evening. Later, the girl walks down the stairs, her hair disheveled, while the 3 boys laugh as if nothing has happened. Furious, she throws the money they gave her as an insult and stumbles her way back home. She barely manages to close the door before breaking into tears. Ivan, her grandfather, hears the noise and rushes over to ask what happened, but she's crying too hard to answer. When Ivan notices the bruises on her legs, he immediately understands everything. He comforts his granddaughter, and after a while, she finally tells him what happened earlier that day. The girl had been walking home as usual when her beauty caught the attention of 3 thugs nearby. She even recognized one of the boys. They lied to her, saying there was a birthday party upstairs and the host wanted to invite her. She tried to refuse, but 2 of them got down on their knees, begging her in public. The innocent girl had no choice but to follow them upstairs, where the earlier scene unfolded. Ivan, now fully aware of what happened, keeps his composure and helps his granddaughter back to her room. Afterward, he grabs an axe and storms out of the house, rage boiling inside him. He's ready to deal with those animals, but as he heads downstairs, he runs into his neighbor, Jack. Jack, a cop, notices the usually calm and kind Ivan consumed by anger and quickly steps in to ask what's going on. Jack listens to what happened and reassures Ivan that the police will handle it. It doesn't take long for Jack and his colleagues to show up at the apartment, break down the door, and arrest the 3 scumbags. Terrified, the boys wet themselves and confess on the spot. The police even find bloodstains on the bedsheets, making the evidence undeniable. The captain is ready to take them back to the station, but then the police chief arrives. It turns out one of the criminals is his youngest son. He demands the case be reopened, claiming police misconduct during the interrogation. Despite the captain being an honest man, the chief is his superior, so the 3 guys are processed at the station and then released. Ivan doesn't know this yet. He's been watching his granddaughter cry all day, refusing to leave the house, and he feels completely helpless. All he can do is hope that the police will bring him some good news. A few days later, Ivan receives a notice from the prosecutor's office. They want to settle the case, but Ivan refuses. The prosecutor calls the girl in for a meeting and asks her to explain how she was attacked. After she shares the details, he throws out a nasty accusation, suggesting she sold herself for money. His tone is dismissive and his words cut deep. The girl feels utterly humiliated and heads home feeling even worse. In her despair, she tries to take her own life several times, but Ivan is always there, comforting her and promising that he'll get her the justice she deserves. One day, as Ivan is heading downstairs, he spots the 3 scumbags being released by the police without facing any consequences. His blood boils. This can't be allowed to go unpunished. The girl was brutalized by those 3, but because one of them is the police chief's son, they're let off the hook. Ivan's anger burns. He can't stand to see his granddaughter suffer like this, so he starts planning how to set things right. He takes all his military medals and heads straight to the district courthouse to meet with the chief prosecutor. His medals gleaming on his chest represent his years of service and honor. He hopes it'll be enough to push for justice against these lowlifes, but the prosecutor just laughs him off and closes the case with a sneer. It's obvious the guy's been bought. As a veteran, Ivan is treated with no respect, and the prosecutor tells him the case is unsubstantiated. Furious, Ivan curses the corrupt official, slams the door behind him, and storms out. When Ivan gets home, he finds an envelope from the police chief waiting for him. Inside is a stack of cash. They're trying to bribe him into letting it go. The insult drives Ivan over the edge. He grabs the money, marches straight to the chief's house, and throws it right in his face. If the system won't give him justice, he'll take matters into his own hands. Ivan goes to the bank and sells his old house in the countryside, the one that's about to be demolished. He walks away with $5,000 in cash. When he gets back home, the girl tells him her aunt came by earlier. She's going on vacation and left her a key to take care of the birds while she's gone. That gives Ivan an idea. He heads straight to the aunt's house, and from the window he can see the house where the 3 lowlifes live. He stares at it for a long time, and with all his years of shooting experience, he knows right away it's the perfect spot. Ivan heads out to a small hidden market and finds a local arms dealer. When they hear about the girl's story, they show some sympathy. Without a word, they lead him to the back room. Ivan picks out a sniper rifle, tests it, and it's just like old times. It works perfectly. After all, Ivan had been a sniper once and even earned the Voroshilov medal for his marksmanship. That night, he hides the rifle in his sister's closet. Now, all he needs is the right moment to make his move. Ivan spends the next few days watching quietly. He notices that the three scumbags always meet up at the same place every Wednesday. Today's Wednesday. He plays it cool, pretending to chat with some friends as he heads downstairs, keeping an eye out. When he spots the three guys pulling up, he waits until they're distracted, then quietly slips away. He quickly runs to his sister's house, grabs the rifle, and sets up in the perfect spot. From his vantage point, Ivan locks his sights on the three men. He steadies the rifle and takes aim at the scumbags across the street. But Ivan doesn't want to kill them outright, wants them to suffer. The boy in the middle is holding a bottle of champagne between his legs. As soon as the cork pops, Ivan pulls the trigger with precise timing. The shot goes off unnoticed, blending with the sound of the cork. Ivan quickly picks up the shell casing, hides the rifle, and walks back to his friends like nothing ever happened. An ambulance arrives soon after, and a crowd gathers. But when people realize the person injured is one of the troublemakers, they start clapping. Since the police chief's son is involved, the chief rushes over to investigate. When he notices the bullet hole, he starts to get suspicious, but others brush it off as an accident, just a champagne bottle that exploded. Seeing that his son is unharmed, the chief decides to let it go. This decision makes the other two guys drop their guard. Not long after, they meet up again at the apartment, just like before. Ivan slips away unnoticed and heads upstairs, waiting for the perfect moment. When one of the guys steps outside, Ivan lines up his shot at the car's gas tank. The second he pulls the trigger, the car bursts into flames. The guy barely escapes, but his lower body is on fire. His screams echo as Ivan watches, blending into the crowd, calm and unbothered. Jack, however, can't shake the feeling that something's off. Two accidents like this don't happen by chance, especially with both connected to Ivan's granddaughter. He glances over at Ivan but keeps quiet. A little later, the police chief returns to find another bullet hole. He's certain now this is no accident. It's revenge. He warns his son to stay inside and away from the windows. When Mike hears someone's after him, panic takes over. He rearranges the furniture, pulls the curtains shut, and uses potted plants as makeshift shields. With his two friends badly injured, Mike is a wreck. Fear keeps him glued to the couch, unable to think straight. His paranoia grows, and he can't sit still. Meanwhile, Jack heads over to Ivan's house, hoping to have a chat, but Ivan isn't home. Jack looks around and notices something key on the table. The girl mentions it's for her aunt's place on the 14th floor. That's when Jack puts it all together. As he leaves, he quietly pockets the key. A few days later, the police chief, watching his son grow more paranoid and fragile, decides it's time to act. He gathers his team and heads to Ivan's house, hoping to find proof. But after searching the place, they come up empty. Furious, the chief is ready to give up. Just then, the doorbell rings. It's the girl's aunt, back to collect her key. The chief realizes the connection instantly and rushes everyone over to her apartment. As soon as they walk in, the chief notices the perfect view of Mike's place from the window. He turns to Ivan and sees the sweat beading on his forehead. It's all clear now. Ivan's behind it all. The chief needs is the weapon to seal the deal. An officer starts searching and eventually finds something in the closet. He opens it, but instead of a gun, there's just a roll of white paper. Even Ivan looks shocked. He knows he hid the rifle there. How could it have vanished? Even though there's no hard evidence, the chief's mind is made up. As he warns Ivan to stay away from his son, Ivan looks him dead in the eye and says, the chief panics, grabbing Ivan by the collar, thinking his son is already in danger. He rushes back to his son's apartment, pounding on the door, but there's no answer. Desperate, he pulls out his gun and forces the door open. Just then, a gunshot rings out from inside. It turns out Mike, driven to madness by fear, had lost control and shot himself. He thought Ivan was coming for revenge, and in his panic, he pulled the trigger. Even though Ivan survives, he is left wondering what happened to the gun, that is, until one day, he runs into his neighbor, Jack. Ivan sees Jack holding the sniper rifle and immediately understands everything. Jack asks Ivan, as a police officer, what he's done. Jack is shocked at first, then he confiscates Ivan's gun but never reveals what Ivan has done. He simply tells Ivan, "You're free now." Ivan returns home and soon hears a familiar song playing. Thanks to his efforts, his granddaughter is finally ready to let go of her pain and start a new life. Standing outside the door, listening to the music, Ivan can't hold back his tears. In the movie, Ivan is an old man, a widower. He's retired, hunched over, with a face full of wrinkles, shuffling as he walks. He spends his days wandering the streets or playing chess in the sunshine with a few old friends. He's just like the elderly people we often see. Ivan only wants to be a good citizen. Even after what happens to his granddaughter, he still hopes the authorities will handle the situation. Ivan takes his granddaughter to meet with the prosecutor, wearing a jacket covered in military medals, listening to the prosecutor's announcement. But when he realizes all his efforts are useless, his usual way of thinking and acting completely shifts. He comes to believe that a bullet is a much clearer language cleaner than words.